Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to my channel. My name is Maria and in today's video we will be making macarons with lemon buttercream. These are perfect to make just in time for Valentine's Day, or honestly you can make these for any holiday. All you have to do is change up the color and shape of these and you will be sure to have all of your guests loving these little treats. So now let's get into the ingredients for the macarons. So for these, I pre-weighed my ingredients ahead of time. I definitely recommend to do this as it is important that you have your measurements correct and that you have everything ready to go prior to starting to make these. So for this recipe, I will be giving you the measurements for grams as well as for cups, but it is recommended that you use the grams version when you weigh these ingredients out because it is really important to get that exact amount and correct ratio of each ingredient to make sure that your macarons come out good. So for this recipe, you will need 70 grams of almond flour, 120 grams confectioner's sugar, 2 large egg whites at room temperature, red food coloring, preferably gel, and 50 grams of granulated sugar. So now for this next step, I had to improvise a little bit because it is recommended to use a food processor to blend together the almond flour along with the confectioner's sugar, but I did not have one, and the main reason to blend it together is just so you have that even ratio all throughout between the almond flour and the confectioner's sugar. But basically what I did is I took my almond flour and I put it through the sieve to get rid of any lumps so that I do not have any inconsistencies in my batter. And then I went ahead and I did the same thing with the confectioner's sugar, just added a little at a time and sieved it through to make sure that I do not have any chunks in my batter. And then after this, I basically just took a little spatula and I tried to mix together the ingredients as best I can. If you do have a food processor, then you can definitely skip this step and use the food processor to blend all of your ingredients in. But just keep in mind that if you do use the food processor, you would add the ingredients in the food processor first to get them incorporated together, and then you would sift them through the sieve. So once you have your almond flour and your confectioner's sugar mixed and you don't see any inconsistencies in the mixture of this powder, you can move on to the next step. So now in a separate clean large bowl, you will be adding the 2 egg whites and you're going to beat these until foamy. Following this step, you will gradually add the 1/4 cup of the granulated sugar, and you will want to beat this on a high speed for about 2.5 minutes, and basically you're just going to be looking out for the stiff glossy peaks, and that will give you the clue that you are now done with the step. And then into this, you will be adding in your red gel food coloring. So now in this recipe that I was following, they recommended to use 1-inch strip of red gel food coloring. I only had liquid food coloring, so what I did was I kind of just did a 1-to-1 ratio of food coloring, water, and some cornstarch, and I heated this mixture up and it thickened the food coloring for me. And it turned out pretty well in the recipe. I didn't think that it ruined anything of the inconsistency, so if you also do not have any gel food coloring, you can try this step as well. So basically all you have to do is just take a spatula and get this food coloring incorporated into this batter, and just make sure to not overmix as that can affect the way the cookies come out at the end. So now for the last step of the batter, you will want to add all the sifted almond flour and sugar mixture into your egg white mixture, and you're going to fold it with the spatula. And basically what you want to do is you want to scrape the batter around the bowl and then press the flat side of the spatula firmly down through the center, and you'll want to repeat this about 35 to 40 times in order to make sure that the batter is all evenly mixed together. You want to keep doing this until the batter flows like lava, and you want to wait until you have thick ribbons forming from the spatula. So once you have your batter all mixed together, you will transfer this batter to a large piping bag fitted with a 3/8 inch round tip. So for this, I also decided to do my own little templates of circles and hearts so that I can trace them and put them under my parchment paper to ensure that they are as similar in size as possible. You can also just print hearts out or circles or honestly whatever shape you like. Unfortunately, I did not have a printer, so I took the time to draw everything out, but basically you just want to create a little outline and then you can just trace it through with your batter like I did here. Also, let's not comment on how my hearts are coming out. Honestly, this was my first time using the heart template, and it still is pretty challenging even with the template to get in a nice shape. But hey, I tried, and I know the next time I'll make it, I'll be a little better at making these. I also decided to add sprinkles to my macarons. Obviously, if you don't want to, you can skip this step, but I just feel like it gives it a better aesthetic with some sprinkles on top, so I just sprinkled on some of them, not all of them. So for the next step, you will firmly tap the baking sheets over your counter about 15 to 20 times, and this is basically to release any air bubbles, as this will affect the appearance of your macarons. And lastly, poke any remaining obvious bubbles with a toothpick, and you will be letting these remain at room temperature for about 30 minutes before putting them into the oven. So once these macarons have a thin film on top, you will want to preheat your oven to 300 degrees Fahrenheit and bake them for about 12 to 15 minutes each. So the ingredients for the buttercream are 6 tablespoons unsalted butter, 1.5 cups confectioner's sugar, 1/8 teaspoon salt, and 2 tablespoons of fresh lemon juice. So while you're waiting for these macarons to bake, on a separate bowl, you can take the 6 tablespoons of your softened butter and mix them on high speed for about 2 minutes. Now we'll be adding 1.5 cups of the powdered sugar that we had pre-measured before, and you want to do this in little increments at a time so that you don't find yourself in a cloud of this powdered sugar. I honestly had a little trouble with this as my kitchen was filled with powder, and at first this mixture was not looking the way it should. It was very clumped up and it wasn't looking like the batter would be consistent like it should be, but after adding the lemon juice at the last step, I realized that the batter kind of formed its creamy texture at the end again. So once your 15 minutes is up, you will remove the macarons from the oven and place them to the side to let them cool down. You will now add the buttercream into the pipette bag and pipette a decent amount of this buttercream onto each macaron. Make sure to not overfill, but also at the same time, do not create too thin of a layer as you will not have the full flavor at the end.
Let me take a selfie.
Alrighty guys, so now this brings us to the best part of the video, which is the taste test. I've been waiting all day for this. It is exactly 12 o'clock. It's midnight. It took me forever to make these, so if you're going to make these at home, I definitely suggest you start 6 o'clock the latest, because they do take a little bit of time, and especially if you don't make them often, then you really have to make sure you follow the directions and get everything right for these macarons. So let's get to the taste test. Look at her. She's so pretty. Sorry, I don't know how to eat. She's pretty good. I definitely love how the cream came out. It's super tangy but sweet at the same time, and that is kind of my favorite type of flavor for desserts. I definitely recommend to save these for the next day if you have any type of self-control, because they are better to eat the next day. But overall, I give this an 8 out of 10. Let me know if you decide to try this recipe and give me a thumbs up, and don't forget to like and subscribe. Oh, that was the same thing. So if you like this recipe, or if you try it, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in my next video. Bing!